Before we start, this video is sponsored by no one. Wala naman kasi akong sponsor. Kumusta? I'm Avard Joseph and welcome to the Worthy Recap Weekly Edition number 147. We have fun conversations last week, so skip to the chances provided if it piques your interest and subscribe to the channel kasi wala namang masama, di ba? And let's get on with the video. ICI dissolved na ba? What do you get when you haphazardly create an independent commission kuno? Unilaterally, ibig sabihin ikaw lang ang nag-push to expose corruption under your administration. Kumbaga, you're basically investigating yourself and you will definitely find out na you have done nothing wrong.
How different would the investigation of your independent panel be compared to what we've seen in the House and in the Senate?
It will be completely independent. That's something that cannot be said if, for example, the Senate conducts, maraming nababanggit na senador. If the House conducts the investigation, marami ring nababanggit na congressman. Kaya sinasabi ng mga tao, bakit naman nag-iimbestiga sila but they're investigating themselves, which is always a little bit of a difficult situation. It's hard to be fair.
Congressman Toby Tiangco has blamed your cousin, House Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, as well as former House Appropriations Chair Zaldico as one of the culprits behind these schemes. Aside from repeatedly mentioning that the panel will be independent, how do you convince the public that your cousin and other allies, both in the House and in the Senate, would not be spared from the scrutiny of this panel?
Well, there's only one way to do it, isn't there? They will not be spared.
All right.
Anybody will say, hindi, wala tayong kinikilingan, wala tayong tinutulungan. Wala namang maniniwala sa'yo hanggat gawin mo eh. So, gagawin namin.
Tapos na. Wala nang kailangan pang gawin dahil mission accomplished na sa pagsiwala sa trilyong pisong anomalya sa mga flood control projects na nagpapataba ng mga bulsa ng mga walang kakwenta-kwentang pool politikos.
I cannot function as much as allowed. So I cannot say anything.
Sir, yun po bang job ng ICI is already, kasi i-premise ko po muna sir ha, you have, ang nag-submit po sa inyo is more than 100 boxes of evidence from the CIDG, and then 2 complaints against the Duterte and then Senator Bongo, and then 3 more complaints sa LTO. Would you consider, given the premise that the job of the ICI is done as envisioned?
We're still functioning. We're still working on these cases. We're still reading them.
But if it were up to you, do you want to continue?
We just study them.
Sir, if it were up to you, kasi sir, para medyo may uncertainty ngayon whether you will continue or not eh. Ang sabi ng palasyo, we will get the recommendation of the ICI. Pero if it were up to you, sir, do you think you need to continue? Do you want to if it were up to you, sir, would you want to continue the job of the ICI?
I can't answer that. Okay?
Ayan ang basically what Marcos said nang pinayagan ng magtapos ang Independent Commission for Infrastructure sa katapusan ng Marso, a few months after its creation, para isiwalat ang mga flood control project anomalies.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon, sir. May we know what will happen to the Independent Commission on Infrastructure? Are they going to be abolished, or will you fill up the vacant positions?
Well, right now, what the ICI is doing is that they are collating all of their findings because dadalhin nila. Siyempre, they're also writing their final report. I think baka tapos na. But they, essentially, the ICI itself has made a determination that much of their work has already been done. And the next part of this process is that they will send those the information, they will send it to DOJ and the Ombudsman, depending on which is the appropriate body. So, nandun tayo ngayon. Now, what will happen afterwards is let us see what else that they can do. But for now, their brief has already been fulfilled.
What once was 4 starry-eyed individuals, ngayon, nag-iisa na lang siya sa mga naapoy. Pero, kung tutuusin, bigatin ang mga miyembro ng ICI nung tinatag siya noong September 2025 amidst the clamor of the Filipino people para kulong na yan, mga kurakot. Unti-unti nang nalagas ang mga original na miyembro ng ICI over the months leading up to December nang sa huli, nag-iisa na lang si ICI Chairman Andre Reyes Jr. sa komisyon, leading some people to believe nung magagawa ng isang taong ito to finish the gigantic task upon them only a few months after its inception.
Sa ngayon po, sa aking pagkakatingin ay hindi naman po pwedeng hindi sila or wala silang kakayanan magrekomenda ng kaso na maaari maimbestigahan. Kahit sino nga po ay pwedeng magbigay ng anumang rekomendasyon sa Ombudsman. Nasa Pangulo po kasi yan, hindi po natin masasabi kung may replacement na. But as of now, hindi po hadlang. Na isa lang po at si chairman lang po Reyes ang nasa ICI, hindi po siya hadlang para makapagsampa or makapagrekomenda rather ng kaso sa Ombudsman or sa DOJ. ICI will only have one member and that's the chairman, Chairman Reyes. He could still recommend the filing of the case. So kung sila man ay sasabi nyo na mas maganda kung mas marami, mas maganda po talaga. Pero hindi ibig sabihin niya na kahit nag-iisa ay hindi makakapag-function. Dahil sabi nga natin muli, yung mga naging trabaho po ni Sec. Babe Singson at ni dating Commissioner Fajardo ay tapos na. So hinihintay na lang po ang pagkukulate, pag-compile para pa ma-rekomenda ang ibang mga kaso sa DOJ at sa...
Pero, despite the promising start, it showed cracks pretty early on sa pagbibitiw ni Baguio City Mayor at Special Advisor to the ICI na si Benjamin Magalong over his disagreements sa magpapalakad ng komisyon, pinpointing then House Speaker Martin Romualdez as the mastermind behind every anomalous practices. And nabubugnot siya kasi hindi siya maturo-turo.
What's next? Ano bang nakikita yung ending dito po na nabuksan nga ang Pandora's box?
Well, ako talaga nagsusumikap kaming tumulong para talagang makulong. Kailangan may makulong eh. Mm-hmm. At hindi lang dapat si Saldico makulong dito.
Mm-hmm. Mayor, kung kayo po ang magsasalita based on documents that you have collated and gathered, sino po ang dapat makulong?
Well,
can you name names?
Isa na dyan siguro si Speaker Romualdez na dapat makulong dyan. Kasi imposibleng hindi niya alam kung anong ginagawa ng tao niya. Napaka-imposible. Tatalino ng mga yan. Kaya nga sila naging congressman, kaya nga sila naging speaker. Tapos nagmamaang-maangan sila na wala silang ginawa.
Tapos, literally after mapalitan si Magalong, humarap si Romualdez sa ICI. And then, a few months later, si Sandro Marcos naman.
Napapasalamat ako sa ICI sa invitasyon. Tama na. Ngayong araw na to, I am ready to give my personal knowledge on the budget process. Okay. And while not a member of the bicameral conference committee, I will share any and all information to help determine the truth and to give all the facts and information. I will be here to help in any way to speed up the resolution of the fact-finding and investigation of the ICI.
So yung si Representative ko, sir, what do you want him to do? Si Representative ko, sir. Oh, tama yan.
Sumunod naman si dating DPWH Secretary Rogelio Babes Singson saying his job is done, and although of course isa rin sa malaking dagok sa kanya ay ang kawalan ng sabina at contempt powers ng komite with no formal budget. Ibig sabihin, para sila mga sundalo na walang baril.
Lumabas yung ICI 94, EO 94. Walang budget. Okay. Kumbaga, lumabag ka sa gera, solve mo yung problema, hindi ka naman binigyan ng armas. Ano nangyari sa'yo? Di nakatiwangwang ka. You cannot defend yourself. You have no powers. Mag-imbita ka kung ayaw pumunta. Wala ka nang magagawa. You don't even have subpoena powers. Gusto mong wag paalisin ang isang tao. We don't have that. We have to go to court for a whole departure order. Ano nangyari? Nakaalis. Sisisihin pa kami doon. Punching bag ka na naman. Ba't hindi nyo pinigilan? Wala na kaming power to stop that guy from leaving. That's what I mean.
Shortly thereafter, sumunod na umalis dahil mission accomplished na rin daw ay si ICI Commissioner Rosana Fajardo before 2025 ended. Of course, marami na silang narekomendahan ng charges sa Ombudsman at sa DOJ. Pero alam naman nating may ugong-ugong and a certain understanding ng ICI ay, pardon my French, pansalga ng presidente para sa kanyang sarili at sa mga kaalyado niyang bara-bara. Masisisi mo ba ang tao na ganun ang iniisip? Lalo na kung maraming ugong-ugong na ikaw ang punot dulo ng masalimuot na berso ng kataga. They trusted you too. Now, alam naman nating hindi pa tapos, and this does not end ICI's influence o even its effects sa mga susunod na kaso. They did the legwork, they did the investigations, they took testimonies, they took evidences at ibinigay sa Ombudsman at DOJ, which means the ball is now on their court. Pero the moment you proclaim na may makukulong bago ang Pasko, people expect you to deliver on that promise kasi hindi naman silang nagbigay ng deadline. Ikaw ang nagbigay ng deadline sa sarili mo eh. Pero anong nangyari? Walang napakulong na malalaking politiko. Mga kumpanya ng langis, dapat bang sigilin? Now, why do you always try to say to everyone na everything will be fine despite economic unpredictability, unpreparedness, na umaasa sa certified #resiliency ng mga Pilipino amidst natural and economic disaster para hindi ka mapatalsik dyan sa pwesto mo among the economic uncertainty sa ating rehiyon at bansa? Dahil nga hindi tayo prepared sa mga ganito kalaking disruption sa ating supply chain.
Well, nandito tayo at pinupunta, iniikot namin ng mga iba't ibang palengke para tiyakin na ang presyo naman ng pagkain natin ay hindi biglang tataas. At nagpapasalamat din kami sa mga vendor dahil ay pumayag naman sila na hindi tataas ang presyo at hindi sila mag-price gouging at hindi sila magsasamantala dito sa krisis na nangyayari sa Middle East. Pilipinas, normal lang muna ang ating mga presyuhan at tinitiyak nga natin Kaya hindi ang supply natin, maganda naman ang supply natin ng pagkain, ng bigas, lahat ng mga basic goods. Kaya yung ating mga kababayan, sinasabi natin, hindi naman kailangan mag-hoarding at hindi tayo nagkukulang sa food supply. Ito ang pagpunta namin dito para tiyakin na ang presyo na ating ibinigay sa ating mga market vendor ay talagang sinusundan. At konting malasakit sa bawat kapwa Pilipino ay makikita natin na malalampasan din natin itong hamon na hinaharap natin. Kaya unang-una, siyempre, food supply ang pinakamahalaga. Ito, kaya natin makontrol. Ang presyo ng langis, siyempre, pinapantayan lang natin kung ano nangyayari sa gera. But sige lang, it's something normal pa naman. Everything is normal and we just keep working to make sure that it stays that way.
So nakita nyo na ba yung video nung mga ginawa ng mga rallyista sa isang Petron as they pelt whatever they can get their hands on and throw it to the facade at mga poster ng kumpanya.
Sa tubo! Balik sa tubo! Petron Corporation! Balik sa tubo! Petron Corporation! Tanggalin! Tanggalin! Gonzales! Tanggalin! Tanggalin! Petron Corporation! Balik sa tubo! Balik sa tubo!
Now this is reminiscent dun sa welgang nangyari sa tapat ng St. Gerard's construction ng mga Diskaya. Now I'm not here to say that whatever they're doing is right at moral. Ibig sabihin tama yung ginagawa nila. Hindi yun ang sinasabi ko or whatever. But hindi natin sana agad sila dinidiscredit basta-basta na kesyo hindi marunong o hindi nakinig sa economics class. Kaya ang kinakalaban yung Petron, hindi yung gobyerno. Well, they have been doing that. Well, I gotta remind you kasi matagal nang ginagawa yan ng mga rallyista. Now, I can definitely see the perspective ng dalawang kampo. So, I'm gonna give a brief context bago natin isa-isahin yung mga punto. Now, there's a freaking war going on because Trump is allegedly being coerced by a certain genocidal megalomaniacal world leader from the river to the sea para bombahin at basically ipulverize ang Iran in the guise of the 20 to 30 year imminent threat, imminent development daw ng isang nuclear bomb.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the rich uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Dahil doon, Iran has been blowing up ships left and right sa Strait of Hormuz kung saan nasa 21% ng oil sa mundo ang dumadaan to countries like China, Japan, Korea at ultimately Pilipinas. Due to the security risk, lalo na at mainit-init ang rehiyon, nagsilobohan na ang presyo ng langis from the usual 1 to 1.5 pesos increase kada linggo na ngayon ay umaabot na ng double digits. Dahil doon, umaabot na ng triple digits ang mga presyo ng langis at krudo to the point na kailangan nilang mag-print ng numero which would cause a tidal wave sa logistics, transportasyon, and basically everything that needs energy, whether that be transportation of goods, of people, or of services. Pero tignan naman natin ngayon yung perspektibo ng mga reliyista. Una, the Philippines have a 50-day buffer ng langis. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi na tayo mag-angkat ng crudo for 49 days, we can manage without buying oil at higher prices. Ang problema nga lang, kapag bumili tayo after the 50 days, mag-aantay tayo ng isang buwan or even longer without fuel. Which basically means, hindi aandar ang ating ekonomiya. Samantala, as mandated by law, mayroong buffer dapat na 30 days ang mga kumpanya. Pero 1 month in advance din sila bumibili just before Trump and Netanyahu strike Iran. Meaning, hindi dapat nagtaas ang presyo because they bought it at a lower price every week. Kasi nga, again, every 15 to 30 days sila kumukuha ng bagong shipment or the very least isang buwan ang kanilang wait time sa pagkuha at sa pag-place ng order sa mga crudo to the endpoint na nasa Pilipinas ito to refine or again to sell it as it is. Hindi dapat nagtataas ang presyo because they bought it at a lower price. Tapos ngayon, ibebenta nila ng mas mataas kasi o-order uli sila ng bago at they don't want it eating up their profits. And the fact na, talagang mahirap naman talagang i-calculate kung ano or kung magkano ba dapat ang magiging presyo ng mga crudo and to back it up dun sa kasalukuyang presyo nang bumili sila nung bagong crudo after the oil price has skyrocketed. Pero kung tutusin, wala tayong problema sa pagtaas ng crudo or at the very least, hindi yun ang atin dapat na tinitignan dahil understandable naman, di ba? But we have to contextualize yung pagtatanggol natin sa mga kumpanya, lalo na sa mga bilyonaryo, and talk about their profits. The oil industry in the Philippines profited up to more than 12 billion pesos in 2025 alone, a little less than 20 billion pesos. Lalo na ang Petron na nagre-refine ng kanilang sarili crudo which makes it actually better for them profit-wise. Isa pa, alam nating tulad ng OPEC, malamang sa malamang may kontsabahang magaganap dyan. Akala nyo kasi free market capitalism na kompetisyon ang nagpapababa ng presyo. Hindi. Kung sinasabi mo na, eto kasing kalaban ko merong 5 pesos. Ako binibenta ko ng 10 pesos. Ibababa ko ngayon ng 350. Hindi ganoon ang nangyayari. Ang nangyayari, nag-uusap kayong dalawa, sasabihin nyo, teka, 10 pesos yung akin, tas 10 pesos din yun sa kanya. Wala akong advantage over that guy. So, ang gagawin ko, kakausapin ko yung isa kong kalaban. Sabihin ko, hoy, itaas mo yung presyo mo, itataas ka rin yung akin. Tapos, parehas tayong kikita ng malaki. Ganun ang nangyari sa mga hindi competitive o walang masyadong nagkikipag-participate sa isang industriya, lalo na ang industriya ng enerhiya. Madalas, nagtutulungan lang ang mga malalaking kumpanya to maintain the status quo and continue raking in billions of pesos in profits. Tapos, inuunti-unti nila yan every week. Tinataas nila ng konti tapos para lang meron tayong bone to play around, minsan binababa nila ng ilang sentavo yung presyo ng diesel at gasolina. Now, ang problema lang talaga, wala tayong control sa pagdaloy at pangangasiwa ng langis as much as we used to bago ang oil deregulation law na noon, merong powers ang gobyerno to mandate the price of oil. Pero ito, I've always been by virtue against deregulation. Kumbaga, kailangan natin ng safeguards. Kailangan natin ng regulasyon sa mga ganitong bagay. Because kung titignan natin companies will do what it is best at or what is it incentivized to do. Kailangan nating bigyan ng galamay ang gobyerno sa mga kritikal na infrastruktura tulad ng kuryente, tubig, telco even, at enerhiya. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, it is a big mistake, or the very least, kahit na sabihin mong inefficient siya, edi gawin mong efficient yung pangangasiwa ng gobyerno sa kuryente, sa Meralco, sa tubig, tulad ng Manila Waters at Maynilad, telco tulad ng PLDT, Globe at kung ano-ano pa, at enerhiya with Petron and Shell and whatever company. It's just way too sensitive at makakaapekto sa kalagayan ng bansa at sa health ng ekonomiya natin, and the state has the money to keep everything smooth sailing for a while hanggang sa mag-stabilize ang presyo. Hindi yung masyashock yung tao na bigla na lang tataas yung presyo ng mga bilihin kung kaya naman na i-absorb ng gobyerno yung losses for a while para lang hindi agad tayong ma-shock doon sa lakas at sa taas ng pagbilis ng pagbalusok ng presyo ng mga bilihin. Kung ikukumpara sa free market o kumpanya na, of course, i-maximize ang presyo ng krudo at an agreed upon price by everyone. Kumbaga, katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, magkukuntsabahan niya na, hoy, itaas mo tong presyo mo, itataas ko rin yung presyo ko. O kaya naman, sige, bawasan mo at lagyan mo ng tubig itong gasolina. Tapos ito naman, ganun din ang gawin mo. Same volume, pero of course, lower quality. Now, matagal nang pinoprotesta ang presyong petrolyo, pero siguro nasa tama ang puso ng mga realista, pero dahil mayroon tayo mga surface level thinkers na nagmamagaling dahil galit sa mga nagpoprotesta kasi nga sabi nila makakaliwa, dahil hindi obvious yung koneksyon ng isang bagay sa pangalawa, ginagawa nilang nagmumukhang tanga raw ang mga realista at first glance. Pero if you look at it at a different angle, at a different perspective, malalaman mo na their cause is our cause. Especially if it's too off-putting sa tao. Kahit na nilalaban mo lang naman yung interest ng nakakarami. Yung interest ng iyong sarili. Lalo na sa wage hikes, sa pag-abolish ng provincial rate, ang nangyayari tuloy, nata-turn off ang tao sa adhikain mo at sa huli, pinoprotektahan pa ng masa yung mga bilyonaryong ibebenta sila ng tigpipiso kung pwede pang magbenta ng tao sa merkado. Pero ito, kausap ko yung mga realista and I feel you. I actually support the initiatives na ginagawa nyo sa strikes and everything in between. Pero, what are we doing? Why are we protesting a private company? Dapat ang inuusig natin ay yung gobyerno, hindi yung mga kumpanya, or at the very least, ganun dapat. Kasi yung mga kumpanya, they don't have a soul. They don't have the good, they don't have the incentive to actually produce or give people the relief that they need. They don't have the incentive to actually take one for the team, to make sacrifices. Kaya dapat the government is the one protecting the people from these companies, lalo na at kumpanya sila. And again, ano ba ang purpose ng isang kumpanya? To maximize shareholder value, to maximize yung presyo, to maximize yung profit, to maximize the profit. Ganyan ang edict. Ganyan ang isip ng kumpanya. And the sooner we accept that, the sooner we can get to working with actual legislators, with actual people na may impluwensya sa gobyerno para isulong yung mga regulasyon, yung even pag na-nationalize ng mga critical na industriya. And sasabihin nyo makakaliwa ako, yes, I am center-left actually. Alam ko, a lot of the leftists will chew me and then spit me out. Pero again, I have their sentiments in the backseat, or at the very least, I have them with me as well. Pero kailangan yung tumingin in the PR, in the Public Relations Department. Kasi kahit na anong ganda ng adhikain mo, kung hindi maganda yung execution at hindi mo ma-explain yung execution mo kung bakit mo ginawa ang isang bagay, it will be off-putting to millions of Filipinos. Basically, kinakalaban mo lang yung sarili mong goal, yung sarili mong adhikain. Kasi, imbes na matuwa sa'yo yung tao, kinakampihan pa nila yung mga taong nagpapahirap sa kanila. Pero ano ba sa tingin nyo? Is it justified or not? Has the woke gotten too far, or we just need a little bit of sleeping? At yan ang pagtatapos ng News Worthy Recap Weekly Edition for roughly the third week of March 2026. Mag-share sa more topics and or corrections to the balitas if you feel I misrepresented them in any way. Salamat sa panonood mga kabayang of Vorme. Like, subscribe, and follow my links sa socials on Vor Joseph that will be linked down below. Sa susunod muli, of course, paalam. Pew!